Welcome back to the dusty, rusty, and trusty shop. As you can see, it's a mess. I'm just going to give you a quick update on where the 1946 Oliver Cletrac sits. Right where we left it. I've been working on it here and there, doing a few things, but as you can see, about 50 other projects have overtaken the Cletrac. We've gotten busy at work, so that's why it's been sitting at the moment. The other thing is I needed a part. But before I tell you what part I need, I'm going to take you through the process that got me there. We retimed the engine. I went through the distributor cap, checked all the points, all the spark plugs. We're getting good spark on all of our cylinders. I changed the coil, and I put new ends on the battery connecting ends on the cables, and put tap water or hose water into the coolant because it was completely empty, or into the cooling system, into the radiator. Before you say anything, tap water was commonly put into these radiators, into the coolant, and it all leaked out anyway. There are about 50 holes in it, and if you look close, I've got a major hole patch there just so it'll hold a little water. I put water in it because we were turning it over, and it was turning over good. It sparks, and all it does is it backfires. So take it back over here and we can look at it. All we can get is a deep blue flame. It backfires out the muffler, and it actually backfires out the intake exhaust manifold. So we get a blue flame coming out around the gasket on the intake and exhaust manifold. While I was investigating the bad gasket on the exhaust intake manifold, I found a couple holes in the exhaust intake manifold. And my theory is when the engine cranks over, it's sucking air through the intake exhaust manifold, and that vacuum is what causes the fuel to mix in the carburetor properly and get sucked into the engine, and we're not getting it into the engine. So at some point it builds up enough fumes and fuel mixture in the exhaust intake manifold and it backfires without running the engine. So I managed to find a gasket for the intake exhaust manifold. Came all the way from Australia. I've actually had it for about a month now. I just haven't had time to tear apart the exhaust manifold and carefully weld the holes shut. Because I imagine if there's one hole, there may be more. Just gonna lube up the bolts and nuts, because there's actually both. There's studs on the engine and bolts that go into the engine on the intake exhaust manifold. Whenever I get a chance, I've been spraying it down, keeping the penetrating oil on it. Hopefully they just come off when the time comes. I put it on pretty liberally. A little extra. Those are all the projects you hear laying around here. About 200 of them laying between me and it. And then put the new gasket on. I just haven't had time to do it. But we did go through the carburetor. The carburetor was cleaned. It actually was pretty clean to begin with. The fuel lines were cleaned. The sediment ball was cleaned. The throttle was loosened up. The choke cable needs to be loosened up. Still seized. But the choke itself works on the carburetor. I went through it's an oil bath air filter. I cleaned that and put new oil in. But right now it's sitting because I'm too busy to work on it. I hope to get back to working on it in the summertime when we've got everything planted on the farm and all the outside work done. The more I work on it, the more dauntingly impossible it seems. It needs an overhauled coolant system, overhauled intake manifold, and hopefully nothing else on the engine, but the engine might need overhauling. Pretty much every linkage connection is rusted shut. Don't even get me started on the tracks and the undercarriage. It seems impossible, but with my Father in heaven, nothing is impossible. He has no limits. No limits whatsoever. By His grace through Jesus Christ, nothing is impossible. Seek Him and you'll see.